Welcome to the Weather Insights Tropics briefing. I'm meteorologist Scott Pitney, along with meteorologist Jeff Lindner. And Jeff, we have some activity. It's been pretty quiet out there, uncharacteristically quiet the last couple of weeks. We expected the tropics to get a little bit busier, but now we have a system that NHC is tracking, National Hurricane Center, that has a 40% chance of development in the next 7 days as it heads toward the Lesser Antilles, right there in the pocket that a lot of these storms have been tracking earlier in the season. And it's very possible we could have a tropical depression or tropical storm from this system as early as Monday or Tuesday next week as it keeps heading in this general direction. And we're really just seeing that activity in the intertropical convergence zone picking up overall. We have another strong wave out there coming off the African coast, and the chances of development in that area in the main development region are getting better and better. We're also looking at this kind of disorganized trough we've had in the Gulf. One of the systems has already moved on shore. These are all mid-level systems, but we still have a lot of convection, expecting pretty heavy rain, possibly in southeast Texas and South Louisiana through the Labor Day weekend as we watch these systems. And as we've seen in the past, Jeff, with these systems, sometimes they do get the pressure does get to the surface, and we can see some spin ups with these. So it's nothing the National Hurricane Center is pinging right now, but we certainly want to keep an eye on it.
Yeah, this is what I like to call a typical northwestern Gulf of Mexico mess, and it's exactly what it is. It's just a big mess out here. You have a mid-level trough, upper level, mid-level trough extending down through here. You might have a little bit of a surface trough, maybe even a mid-level circulation down in all this thunderstorm activity here off the southwest Louisiana, upper Texas coast. And this is all kind of drifting off to the north slowly. There's not a lot of steering right now in this area. So this is going to kind of sit out here and fester over the northwestern Gulf for the next day or so, and generally head up in the direction of the extreme upper Texas, southeast coast. So Golden Triangle area, Beaumont, Sabine Pass, Port Arthur, maybe over towards Galveston Bay, over towards Lake Charles, and that's where we're kind of focusing. This is the rainfall forecast from the Weather Prediction Center here off of Pivotal Weather. And you can see focusing in here on Jefferson County over towards Cameron Parish, Calcasieu Parish, maybe Chambers County and Galveston County for the heaviest rainfall over the next, this is for the next several days. Most of this is likely going to fall in the tonight, Thursday night, Friday morning into Friday and Saturday along the coast. So we're not looking for very good beach weather for the weekend down here for Labor Day. Also notice there's a pretty strong gradient. We've dealt with this a couple times this season or this summer,
Yep.
where we've had a lot of activity down here along the coast, but it doesn't really get inland, and we're sort of seeing that again. That the most favorable conditions for the heavy rainfall is down here, right along the coast, and really a little bit east of us. And then looking at some of the high resolution guidance, they're really pinging this area here in south around Cameron, Louisiana, over towards Sabine Pass, maybe toward High Island for some really impressive rainfall. This could be on the lower end, so there could definitely be some street flooding, down along the coast over the next couple of days. We're talking 4, 5, 6 inches of rain. Again, this is spread out over 3, 4, 5 days, so we're not expecting this all at once. And if we were to see something try to organize a little bit, it would probably generally head off to the north, and so we'll just see. Obviously, it's the Gulf of Mexico. It's late August, early September, and you pay attention to anything out there with a lot of thunderstorms this time of year, but nothing. I mean, this is not going to become anything significant with respect to wind or anything like that.
Right.
But whatever kind of transpires with this kind of loose organization of this trough axis potentially could bring a lot of rain to somebody in coastal southeast Texas or Golden Triangle area as we get into tomorrow and Saturday.
Yeah. And there's that intertropical convergence that I was talking about earlier. Pretty strong wave coming off the coast right now. Again, National Hurricane Center doesn't have this area marked yet, but we'll certainly keep an eye on it and expect this activity to continue. The last week or so, I hadn't really seen this kind of convection, so I think the activity's picking up. And again, the conditions are more conducive to development as we head into the prime time of hurricane season.
Yeah, so this is our wave or what the Hurricane Center is watching now. This is
Mhm.
and you can see it doesn't look like a lot, and this has been a very telltale sign of so far the 2024 season. Things just really haven't been able to get going out here in this part of the Atlantic. And these tropical waves kind of move westward and find a little bit more favorable conditions as they get further west. And that is going to be, yet again, the key to the system is when does it start to develop? Chances are now it is going to start to develop. We're starting to see a lot more model support, but the longer it takes for development, the further west this is going to get potentially in the Caribbean. And so this is going to be something that everybody's need to keep an eye on, especially in the Caribbean, the Leeward and Windward Islands. And then kind of looking at at this point in time, you're talking 5, 7 days out. You want to look at the ensembles, not the deterministic runs. And I'm telling you right now, there's some scary deterministic runs out there this
Oh
morning
yeah.
that have some impacts further down the road. Stay away from that stuff. It's too far out to really lock in what kind of steering we're looking at and all that. But the ensembles is where you want to be looking right now. And you can kind of see here, this is the GFS, and this is for next Wednesday around sunrise. And you can see it is showing a signal here for development of the system. And you can see there's some spread here. We're talking central eastern Caribbean all the way towards the northeast side of the Leeward Islands. So where exactly is some center going to form? And this is the potential somewhere here in the eastern or northeastern Caribbean around next Wednesday morning is where we could potentially see the system. And Scott, you mentioned the wave coming off the coast. There's a signal definitely here also showing for development of that system as we get into the middle part of next week. Looking at the Canadian, nowhere near the excitement of the GFS, and I did not have the European because the data was old. But you can see the Canadian here is a little bit more further to the west, a little bit faster, and you can see it has a couple members here showing some development. So the point being with the wave out in the Atlantic right now is we are seeing an increasing signal of development potential as the wave axis gets over here towards the Eastern Caribbean early to mid part of next week. And then we'll have to see how quickly it develops, how quickly it organizes. There's a lot of, does it hit these islands with the mountains here? That's always a question in the Caribbean. And does it come further to the west and get over here into the Western Caribbean as we get into late next week? Because it's a little bit weaker and it waits to develop over here, or does it develop faster and maybe head up and toward the Bahamas? And so, like I said, there's going to be a lot of stuff over the next couple of days coming out. The good news is not expecting any impacts anywhere over the Labor Day weekend. So nothing here in the Caribbean to worry about over the Labor Day weekend. Anything that would happen would be early next week, early to mid next week. And you can see even here in the Gulf of Mexico, we're not really seeing a big signal for anything to develop. I mean, this is further along at this point, but not seeing anything significant here in the northwestern Gulf of Mexico. And there's been some hints in some of the guidance that something may try to spin up there in the northwestern Gulf, but I think it's relatively low, and the Hurricane Center currently not thinking anything going to happen in that region. So really, just a lot of potential rainfall for us in coastal southeast Texas and southwest Louisiana over the weekend, and even in the next week. And the pattern next week is going to get interesting again with the potential for some fronts to get down into the southern United States. And so that could potentially have some influences on what goes on down here in the Caribbean in the long term. But getting into that heart of hurricane season, it's good to pay attention at least daily to see what's going on. And I think we'd be remiss if we didn't at least mention that today is the 19-year anniversary
August
of the
29th.
landfall of
Yep.
Hurricane Katrina
Yep.
on the Louisiana and Mississippi coast. Probably one of the most devastating hurricane events to ever impact the United States, at least in modern times. And certainly for my life, one of those moments that you're just in, complete shock of the devastation that occurred this day 19 years ago on the Mississippi and Louisiana coast.
Yeah, and just been to Biloxi and some of those ground zero areas, and when you see those empty foundations along the coast there, it's just a reminder that that Category 4, Category 5 type storm, the devastation it can leave, and lots of lives lost in that storm, and probably lots of lives saved too, because we, even though I can't believe it's almost 20 years since that storm, but it's also a reminder we've come a long way in hurricane forecasting. So Jeff, thank you very much. Great stuff. As always, like to remind our listeners that you can subscribe to the Weather Insights podcast channel on YouTube. Also, please share it with your friends and family so they can stay informed as well on the latest in the tropics. And join us for the next Weather Insights briefing.